Happy St. John's Day, everyone, or as we call it here in New Mexico, San Juan Day. My name is Tiffany Owen, and I am the Instructional Coordinator for Lincoln and Fort Stanton Historic Sites here in the beautiful Bonito Valley of southern New Mexico. If you've been to Lincoln on this day in recent years, you might have noticed that it wasn't just an ordinary day in old Lincoln town, especially around the historic La Iglesia de San Juan Bautista Church. You may have seen colorful ribbons and flowers, music, dancing, food, activities, and games. We host this event to honor the traditional celebration of San Juan Day in Lincoln County's earliest days. I hope you'll join me after this video to learn how to make Mexican tissue paper flowers like the ones gracing the arch in this picture. They can liven up any holiday or occasion, but are also fun to make on an ordinary summer afternoon. Since today is June 24th, I thought it might be fun to talk about the traditional holiday that is still celebrated all around the world. But in the early days, the sound of religious devotionals and the sight of blazing bonfires would have been common in the Hondo and Bonito valleys of New Mexico at this time of year. In the historic town where I live, Lincoln, New Mexico, we use these vibrant tissue paper flowers to decorate the historic La Iglesia de San Juan Bautista Church for our San Juan Day festivities, as well as other celebrations throughout the year. You may be wondering, what is San Juan Day? Well, when I first moved here, I wondered the same thing, and I've lived in New Mexico my entire life. I'll start by sharing with you how I first learned about this holiday, which is actually celebrated all over the world. In 2008, I became the director of the Herd La Rinconada Gallery, which is located in San Patricio, New Mexico, just over the hill from historic Lincoln. The gallery there features the work of 3 generations of famous artists, all from the same family. The patriarch of the Herd branch of this artistic family tree was Peter Herd, and this is one of his most famous and beloved paintings, entitled Eve of St. John. The original painting resides in the San Diego Museum of Art, but reproductions of this image are found all over the Southwest. The painting features young Dorothy Herrera, the daughter of one of the Herd's ranch hands. Dorothy's face is illuminated by the candle she holds, which symbolizes several of the traditions of San Juan Day. Although the holiday is celebrated all over the world, a candlelight processional to the church on St. John's Eve was typical in New Mexican villages. Almost all celebrations, however, involve some symbolism of fire and water. The Christian holiday of St. John's Day is designated on June 24th to celebrate the birth of St. John the Baptist. The Gospel of Luke states that John was born 6 months before Jesus. So, in the 4th century, the church selected the day that falls 6 months before Christmas Eve to honor the birth of John the Baptist. In most countries, however, the festivities are held the night before, on the eve of St. John, June 23rd. The roots of this holiday most likely predate Christianity, however, since the date closely coincides with the summer solstice, when the days begin to get shorter as we move into the seasons of autumn and winter. In England, this night was referred to as midsummer, as in Shakespeare's play, A Midsummer Night's Dream. The earliest record of bonfires associated with the celebration of St. John's Day was recorded by a theologian at the University of Paris in the 12th century. The fires, commonly called St. John's fires, were symbolically thought to ward off witches and evil spirits. In some celebrations, participants would carry lit torches, which symbolized the biblical reference to John the Baptist as a burning and shining light and the preparer of the way of Christ. In the Hondo and Bonito valleys of early New Mexico, a tradition common to many San Juan Day celebrations involved a leap of faith. Young revelers would actually leap over the flames of the bonfire, either for luck, for the hope of finding a husband or wife, or out of desire for a good harvest in the fall. In Ireland, the bonfires were built on hilltops, but in many places in the world, the traditional bonfires are built on the beach or on the shores of a river so that celebrants have easy access to the other symbolic part of the celebration, water. The obvious symbolism of water in connection with St. John's Day is that it was John who baptized many people, including Jesus, in the River Jordan. In some parts of the world, the tradition includes bathing in the ocean after midnight, which is thought to purify the body and soul. Some believe that on this night, fountains and natural water sources have magical healing properties. Since New Mexico doesn't really have readily available oceans, the San Juan Day ritual often involved a cleansing visit to the river early on the morning of June 24th. Although it's not as common in America today, there was a time when St. John's Day was celebrated with almost as much fanfare as Christmas. In addition to the bonfires and revelry, it was first and foremost a time for important religious services and dedications. On June 23, 1885, only a few years after the end of the Lincoln County War, St. John's Eve was chosen as the day to dedicate the first Catholic church in Lincoln, a building that still stands today. It had originally been the first courthouse in Lincoln, but we now refer to it as the convento. On that day, the new church bell was decorated with flowers and ribbons and baptized. The peaceful valley was filled with music and prayers as the parishioners celebrated. A few years later, on June 25, 1887, another building that can still be seen today in historic Lincoln was dedicated, La Iglesia de San Juan Bautista. Today, the San Juan Church is one of the museums at Lincoln Historic Site, and in recent years, the majestic church has been the backdrop to modern-day San Juan Day festivities. Most importantly, of course, the celebration of St. John's Day must include a religious service held in the beautiful sunlit sanctuary of the San Juan Church. The rest of the day is full of folk music, singing, dancing, special presentations, and historic games. Historians and presenters share their stories of Lincoln County's long and dramatic history. Educators teach children how cowboys lived on the range and how the early citizens of Lincoln spun wool into yarn to make their very own clothes and blankets. The kids get to experience life before video games. Historic games like egg races, stilts, gunny sack races, and the game of graces are surprisingly novel, old-fashioned fun. In 2018, historic site personnel, visitors, and members of the Mescalero Apache tribe danced in a circle together under the watchful eye of the historic San Juan Church. A very exciting addition to our San Juan Day activities in 2017 incorporated our volunteer Sumi, who performed fire dancing to symbolize the old tradition of the bonfires that lit the night on St. John's Eve. You may have noticed how colorful and festive our San Juan Church was decorated during San Juan festivities the last few years. Well, that is thanks to our local citizens who began making Mexican tissue paper flowers early in the spring to add vivid beauty to the town and to honor the saint and the day for which our beloved church was named. If you would like to learn how to make Mexican tissue paper flowers, join me for the activity that accompanies this video, and I will teach you how. Once you learn how to make them, just look at all the fun things you can do. You can even decorate yourself or decorate your dog. Until then, have a great St. John's Day, San Juan Day, solstice, and midsummer. Thank you for watching.